It's been 3 days, and the silence in this apartment is so loud, you know? It's this physical thing that presses in on you, half of everything is just gone. His side of the closet is a hollow space of empty hangers that kind of chime when a truck goes by outside. I'm sitting on the floor in the living room, just staring at the blank space on the wall where his gaming console used to be. There's a faint, lighter rectangle of paint there like a ghost. I haven't cried, I don't think I can. It's like my brain is just offline. There's no anger, no real sadness, just this thick gray fog. And inside that fog, one question plays on a loop, like a bad song stuck in my head. How did we get here? It feels like I'm forced to watch the replay of a movie I already know ends terribly. The replay always starts in the same place. A little independent bookstore cafe smelling of old paper and roasted coffee. That's where I met Rowan. He was a rare book restorer, for God's sake. His whole life was about taking things that were falling apart and patiently, carefully putting them back together. And that's what he did for me at first. He had this calm about him, you know, like a deep, quiet lake. He never talked about my looks, not in the way guys usually do. He'd say things like, "I love the way your brain works," or "The way you laugh at your own jokes is my favorite sound." He made me feel seen, but I couldn't trust it, I just couldn't. The guy before him, he was gorgeous. The kind of guy who turns heads on the street and he knew it. He cheated on me so badly it felt like a sport to him. It broke something inside me, I think. So when Rowan, with his gentle eyes and his quiet love, made me feel safe, every alarm in my body went off. Safety felt like a trap. It felt like the silence before the explosion. So I started doing this thing, this horrible, ugly thing. I started making little jokes about his appearance. I mean, they were just jokes right at first. He had this slight paunch, a little soft spot from sitting at his workbench all day, and I'd poke it and say, "Careful, don't want to lose your boyish figure." He had these glasses that were a bit nerdy, and I'd call them his birth control specs. I told myself it was just our brand of banter. But it wasn't, it was poison. In my sick, terrified mind, I had this logic. If I could just make him feel a little less handsome, a little less confident, then he wouldn't realize he could do better than me. He wouldn't leave. It was my way of clipping his wings so he'd have to stay in my nest. And he'd just kind of smile, this tight little smile, and not say anything. And I thought it meant I was winning. I thought I was in control. I remember the first time the jokes stopped being jokes. The first time the blade actually drew blood. We were driving home from dinner with some of my friends. I was pissed off about something incredibly stupid, something I can barely even remember now. I think he'd been quiet at the table, and in my mind, he wasn't performing well enough. He wasn't being the charming, witty boyfriend I wanted to show off. God, that sounds awful saying it out loud. What was that tonight? I started the second the car doors closed. You barely said a word, it was embarrassing. He just kept his eyes on the road, his hands steady on the wheel. I was tired, Paisley. It was a long week at the workshop. Tired or bored, I pushed because I couldn't help myself. It was like a compulsion. When I felt that flicker of insecurity, that fear that I wasn't enough, I had to make him feel smaller. Were my friends not stimulating enough for the great restorer of ancient texts? "That's not fair," he said, his voice still even. "You know I like your friends." But I didn't want fair, I wanted to win. I wanted to feel the jolt of power that came from hurting him just a little bit. It was the only thing that made the anxiety in my chest go quiet, so I reached for the ugliest thing I could find. "You know, you really should be grateful I even bother," I snapped, my voice dripping with a venom I didn't even know I had. "Honestly, with that receding hairline, you're lucky anyone wants you at all." The air in the car just died, all the oxygen got sucked out, he didn't swerve, didn't even flinch. He just kept driving, but I saw his knuckles go white on the steering wheel. I saw the muscle in his jaw clench just once. He didn't say a word for the rest of the drive home. When we walked into the apartment, he went straight into the bedroom and I heard the lock click. He slept in there, I slept on the couch. And the sickest part, the truly twisted part of all this, that night I chalked it up as a victory. I thought, see, he knows I'm right, he can't even argue. I had no idea that I hadn't won an argument. I had just taught him that I was dangerous. The fragile peace after that fight lasted a few weeks. It was a tense, quiet time like walking on eggshells. Then one night we were lying in bed, the lights were off, and the only sound was the hum of the city outside our window. I thought he was asleep, but then he spoke, his voice soft in the darkness. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. "Something I've never told anyone else." My heart did a little flip. This felt important. This felt like a breakthrough. "Of course," I whispered, turning on my side to face him. He was quiet for a long time, and I could just make out the silhouette of him staring at the ceiling. "When I was in middle school," he began, his voice flat like he was reading a historical document, "I had really, really bad acne. cystic, and I was skinny, like painfully skinny. The other kids, they had names for me. Crater Face was the popular one, Rowan the Ruin. They'd shove me in the hallways, knock my books out of my hands. It was that classic movie-level bullying, you know. He paused, and I felt this wave of protectiveness wash over me. I reached out and took his hand. It was cold. It's why I am the way I am, I think, he continued. Why I hate big crowds, why I chose a job where I can just be alone with things that can't judge me. It's the deepest shame I have, Paisley. This feeling that underneath it all, I'm still that ugly, worthless kid that everyone hated. He finally turned his head to look at me, and even in the dim light, I could see the raw vulnerability in his eyes. It was terrifying and beautiful all at once. He was trusting me with the most broken part of himself. I pulled him close, wrapping my arms around him, my cheek against his chest. Oh, Rowan, I whispered into his skin. You are the furthest thing from that. You're the kindest, most wonderful man I've ever known. I held him tight, telling him all the things I knew he needed to hear. That I loved him, that he was safe with me, that I would never, ever let him feel that way again, and I meant it. In that moment, I swear to God, I meant every single word. He was handing me a map to the most fragile, undefended part of his soul, and I in that moment swore I would be its guardian. I had no idea, not a single clue, that what he was really doing was giving me the dagger and pointing to the exact spot where it would hurt the most. The party was at our friend Liam's place. It was one of those loud, crowded apartment parties where you have to shout to be heard over the music, and everyone's a little sweaty. I'd had too much cheap wine, I know that. It always made me sharp, prickly. I was holding court with a few of my friends, laughing a little too loudly, feeling like the center of the universe for a moment. Then I looked across the room and saw Rowan. He was standing near the bookshelf, deep in conversation with some woman I didn't know. He wasn't just being polite, he was engaged. He was leaning in, nodding, a small, genuine smile on his face. And a hot, ugly spike of jealousy shot through me. He's having fun without me. He finds her more interesting than me. I waited until he was alone in the kitchen, grabbing another beer. Are you having a horrible time or something? I asked, my tone already accusatory, the wine making my words slur just slightly. What? No, it's fine, just a little loud, he said, trying to smile. But I saw the weariness in his eyes and I interpreted it as an insult. You could at least try to look like you're enjoying yourself, I hissed, keeping my voice low. You were more animated talking to that girl by the bookshelf than you've been with me all week. That was Liam's cousin, she's a historian. Paisley, please don't do this here, he murmured, his gaze flicking around to see if anyone was listening. His attempt to shut it down just felt like gasoline on the fire. All my anxieties, all my insecurities about him, about us, about myself, they all coalesced into this white-hot rage. The walk home was a masterclass in psychological warfare. You always do this, I started, my voice tight. You shut down, you make me feel like I'm crazy for being upset. I'm not doing anything, I'm just walking home with you, he said, his voice a low monotone. Exactly, you're doing nothing, you just stand there with that look on your face like you're so above it all. So patient, so stoic, it's the most condescending thing in the world. He just kept walking, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. His silence was the worst part. It felt like a wall and I had to break it down, I had to get a reaction. We got back to our apartment and the second the door clicked shut, it was like a dam breaking. I was screaming, I think, crying, following him from room to room as he tried to create space. He walked into the bedroom and started taking off his jacket, his back to me. That simple act of dismissal, of turning away, made me feel completely unhinged. I felt invisible, and I needed to make him turn around, to make him feel the same level of agony I was feeling. A voice in the back of my head, a tiny, sane voice, was screaming, "Stop, Paisley, stop." But it was drowned out by the ugly, roaring need to win, and that's when I did it. I reached for the dagger he had given me in the dark. I picked it up and I plunged it in as hard as I could. You know what? You're pathetic, I spat, my voice shaking with a truly vile kind of power. You stand there with that miserable look on your face. It's the same look, isn't it? The one they must have seen in the hallways back in high school. No wonder they called you all those things, Rowan the Ruin, right? God, sometimes, honestly, looking at your face when you're like this just makes me sick. The words hung in the air between us, heavy, irreversible, radioactive. He stopped moving, his jacket half off his shoulders. He slowly, very slowly, turned around to face me. When he turned around, all the emotion had been wiped from his face. It was just blank, like a mask. There was no anger, no hurt, not even surprise. It was the complete absence of everything, and it was the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. He looked at me, but it felt like he was looking straight through me, like I was a ghost he'd just realized was haunting his house. He finally spoke, and his voice was so quiet, so devoid of any feeling, it was like a stranger's. I see, he said, just that, I see. Then he walked past me into the bathroom and shut the door. I stood there in the middle of the living room, my heart hammering against my ribs, the adrenaline from the fight slowly draining away, leaving a cold, sick feeling in its place. I expected him to come out yelling. I wanted him to. I wanted him to throw something, to scream at me, to tell me I was a monster. Anything would have been better than the silence. He was in there for maybe 20 minutes. When he came out, he was carrying his DOP kit and a change of clothes. He didn't look at me. He just walked to the front door, put on his shoes, and picked up his keys. Where are you going? I asked, my voice small, pathetic. He paused with his hand on the doorknob, his back still to me. I'm going to stay at Liam's tonight. Rowan, wait. I didn't mean it, I stammered, the lie tasting like ash in my mouth. He finally turned his head just enough to look at me over his shoulder. And for the first time, I saw something in his eyes. It wasn't anger, it was something worse, it was pity. Yes, you did, he said, his voice still unnervingly calm. You meant every word. You've been meaning them for a long time. And then he opened the door and left. The lock clicked shut behind him, and the sound echoed in the sudden, crushing silence of the apartment. I stood there for a full minute, waiting for him to come back. He didn't. The next day, I went to work, a hollowed out shell of a person, convincing myself this was just a big fight, that he'd cool off and come home. But when I got back that evening, I knew. The moment I walked in, I could feel the emptiness. His favorite mug was gone from the dish rack, his worn-out sneakers weren't by the door. I walked into the bedroom, my stomach twisting into a knot. His side of the closet was empty. His books were gone from the nightstand. He had come while I was out, and he had surgically removed himself from my life. No note, no angry text. No final dramatic confrontation, he just vanished. The first 48 hours were a blur of denial and frantic, one-sided communication. I must have called him 100 times. Each call went straight to voicemail, a cheerful, recorded version of his voice that felt like a special kind of torture. I sent him a flood of texts. First, angry ones, you can't just leave like this is cowardly. Then pleading ones, I'm so sorry, baby, please just talk to me. We can fix this. Then desperate, rambling ones in the middle of the night, full of typos and self-loathing. Every single one was met with the same suffocating silence. Delivered, unread. Finally, in a fit of pure desperation, I called his sister, Amelia. We'd never been close, but she was always civil. She picked up on the second ring. Amelia, thank God, I started, the words tumbling out of me. It's Paisley, is Rowan with you? Is he okay? He won't answer my calls. There was a long, cold pause on the other end of the lines. He's not with me, Paisley, she said, her voice flat and hard. But he called me, he told me what happened. And it was a fight, I said quickly, trying to downplay it. I said some horrible things. I know I was drunk and angry, but I didn't mean them. Stop, she cut me off, and her voice was so sharp it made me flinch. Just stop. Do you have any idea what you did? He told me about his past. He trusted you with that. He gave you the most fragile part of himself, and you took it and you used it to gut him. You didn't just have a fight, Paisley. You confirmed his deepest, darkest fear, that he is fundamentally unlovable. You destroyed years of work he did to believe he was worth something. Her words hit me with the force of a physical blow. I had nothing to say, there was no defense. He told me he feels erased, she continued, her voice cracking just a little. Like all the good things, all the progress, it was all a lie. So no, he doesn't want to talk to you, and honestly, I don't blame him. Please just leave him alone, he needs to heal from this, from you. The line went dead. I slid down the wall in my hallway, the phone still pressed to my ear. That was it. The final door had been slammed in my face. Later that night, trying to numb the pain by cleaning, by doing something, I was clearing out the drawer of his old nightstand. Tucked away in the back, behind a stack of old paperbacks, I found two things. A receipt for a 3-month supply of a high-end hair regrowth formula dated 6 months ago, and a crumpled, half-filled-out application form for a membership at the gym down the street. He never told me about either of them. He had been quietly, secretly, trying to fix the things I told him were broken. And in that moment, the numb, gray fog I'd been living in finally, brutally dissipated. And the pain that rushed in was so immense, I thought it was going to tear me in half. I'm still sitting here now in the quiet. My phone is in my hand. I open up our old text thread. I type, I am a monster, I am so sorry. Then I delete it, it's not enough. I type, you deserved better than me, you deserved everything. I delete that too. Then the anger flares up hot and useless. How could you just leave? Delete, it's a cycle. Regret, self-hatred, a flash of anger, then back to a hollow ache. I'm stuck in the replay, pushing rewind and play over and over again, hoping for a different ending that I know will never come.